Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Today is February the 9th, 2026. This is our regular scheduled monthly meeting, and we'd like to welcome everyone that's here tonight. We've got a good agenda before us, and we'll go ahead and start out as always with our prayer and our pledge. And tonight, Commissioner Walker will say our prayer, and Commissioner Gardner will do our pledge.
Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for all your many blessings. Dear Lord, we just thank you for the opportunity to come together tonight to conduct the county business. I just pray you give us wisdom, dear Lord, that we'd always do what's right on your side and what's right for the people we represent. And dear Lord, I just pray you bless our nation, our leadership, our president, dear Lord, our military men and women serving all around the world. Bless our county employees, dear Lord. Just keep your hand on them and watch over them as they seek to do work here and help others in our community, dear Lord. We just thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for your son, Jesus, who died on the cross for our sins and rose 3 days later. We love you, dear Jesus. In your name, pray, amen.
Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hear a motion, we approve the prior minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Do I hear a motion, we approve the agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Could I add two items,
Yes,
please? Under new business, item D would be floodplain, FEMA floodplain maps. And then item E would be just to address some recent information about the Baxter healthcare layoffs that was been in the news.
Mr. Chairman, I will amend my motion to include the two items requested by the county manager.
Second.
Okay, any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the first appointment tonight would be item A, recognition of the emergency services staff, and we have our EMS director, Mr. William Kehler, here tonight. So William, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Wooten and Ms. Robinson. Appreciate the opportunity to present and mainly recognize our Emergency Operations Center staff. For those watching at home, the EOC, as it's often referred to, is known as the Emergency Operations Center. That is what is activated in times prior to, during, and after a disaster. And we have had a number of long activations within the last 5 to 6 years with COVID, Hurricane Helene, and then recently we started 2026 off with 2 Emergency Operations Center activations. So we're off to a roaring start in 2026 once again. But it's a perfect opportunity to have these folks come in. I absolutely love these folks. They are hardworking, they are committed to this county, and they do what's right every single day for the residents of this county, no matter who calls our office or who comes to through our doors. These folks always find a way to try to help someone. Even if it's not our agency, they try to connect the dots for the resident, and that's a big deal. So I think it's important to know that they have their assigned daily job that they do within McDowell County Emergency Services, whatever division it may be. And as a reminder for folks, we have EMS, Emergency Management, 911 Communications, 911 addressing, community paramedic program, and the fire marshal's office. And I hope I didn't leave one out, but I think I got all of those. But they have their daily jobs that they do, and then when we have an EOC activation, they wear a specific hat in the EOC operation, so they're wearing multiple hats at one time. And a lot of these folks have just come off working 18, 19 days straight through the 2 different storms. And with our ice storm, I think it's important to highlight why that was only 2 to 3 inches of sleet. And fortunately, we did not receive the freezing rain that was calling for, like the poor folks in Mississippi and Tennessee, who some are still without power. We were spared power outages, but we have dealt with icy driveways, sidewalks, for weeks now, and folks on private drives. It's taken substantial amount of support to get those that are injured or sick safely extricated into the hospital, so these folks have had a big part of that. I also want to recognize the fire, rescue, law enforcement partners that we've had. during these 2 storms and activations. And I want to recognize our EOC staff. So I'll start in the back here. I'll start with Mitchell Ledford. He's our EMS operations manager overseeing EMS. He is the guy, the guru behind the scenes, making sure EMS has the right staffing and deployed resources in the county during an EOC activation. Does an outstanding job. Next is from our emergency management fire marshal's office, Mr. Sam Robinson. He's a sworn deputy, has fire certifications, a paramedic, and also works as emergency manager. So he's wearing multiple hats. So appreciate what he does. Next, Mr. Andrew Worley. He's one of our emergency managers and one of our fire marshal office employees, and works in the operations division during an EOC activation. Next up is Deputy Director Presley. He's also a sworn deputy with the Sheriff's Office. He is the main fire investigator, emergency manager, and also a paramedic wearing multiple hats. Super talented bunch, as you can see. But he oversees operations. He's the ops chief during an EOC activation. Next, Miss Desiree McLaughlin. She is, I feel sorry for her because she's got to sort out all the FEMA paperwork. She is our EM recovery officer, but also assists in operations. She's also a paramedic, but does a fantastic job seeking FEMA reimbursement for these declared disasters. That's a big deal. Next is from our 911 center, running our communication units during a disaster, Miss Karen Stepp. She's a lieutenant with 911, does an excellent job, longtime county employee. Miss Amberly Buff, our 911 manager, is our comm unit manager during an EOC activation to make sure all of our communication systems are green throughout the entire event. So appreciate her work. Captain Agreda from our EMS division. This past EOC activation, she stood up and was in charge of our special needs medical shelter. There's a lot of responsibility making sure when we take on medical patients who have serious medical needs that we're able to care for them at the facility we open. So a lot of support for Brenda that I'll recognize in just a minute. Deputy Director Jones, who has been wonderful through all of these activations and has led, appreciate her leadership. She's wearing about 10 different hats and is always there to make sure things are correct, and appreciate everything she does. Miss Angie Wright, our addressing coordinator. She's also what we call our situation unit leader, but also works in plans, operations. Angie wears 10 different hats, longtime county employee, and does a wonderful job, so thank you. Victoria Gurick, it's our partnership with Grace Community Church. She has been with us since Helene and continues to serve, but was very instrumental in helping us with our shelter operation during the first winter storm. And this partnership with Grace and these nonprofits just continue to strengthen, which makes us a stronger EOC. So thank you for that. Miss Shannon Jones, who leads our human services desk at the EOC. She was on vacation on the first activation, and that's why Brenda stood up. But that's what is that's what I like about this group, is they can adapt and overcome. They can pivot on a dime, and it doesn't matter what section you tell them to work in. Every one of these folks could work in any of the sections that I've named off. So appreciate Shannon and many years that she's given. And then Steve Jones has been at the Human Services Desk supporting our operation. Appreciate him as well. And then I want to make sure that I don't leave these folks out, because what Sarah, Ms. Brewer, and Mr. Hollifield, Aikman at the rec department, you had some department heads and department managers that really stepped up, just like they did in Helene, just like they did in COVID. They're always there to support the EOC. So thank you to Sarah and her staff for shelter operations. Jason, there's a reason DaVita dialysis patients in this county continue to get to dialysis treatment. Jason is always there anytime that we call. Melinda at the senior center, making sure that these shelters had meals. It takes a whole of community approach, and then with Mr. Wooten and Ms. Robinson's support and the board support, this is how the EOC functions. And it functions, I think, very well in this county because of the partnerships and that one team, one mission approach. So, did I leave anyone out?
I was going to say thanks to Maria for running the call center and bringing us that.
Thank you for that. And Miss Maria as well. So, You've got incredible employees that work for this county and are dedicated, and it's important that our residents know and hear their names and also see their faces, because I sincerely appreciate what they do. And it's an honor to work alongside them.
This is the group that you're always bragging about.
This is the group that I'm always bragging about. Every time I come and present about an update on a disaster, these are the folks that make it happen behind the scenes. I simply carry the message forward, but these folks make it happen every single day. And even outside of a disaster, every emergency that occurs, these folks, along with our partners from Fire and Rescue, take care of our folks here in this county.
And I will say to the employees that we appreciate your loyal dedication. Y'all are all, some of the faces when you were going through, I was there thinking, man, yeah, I remember 10 years ago or 8 years ago, or different scenarios where they were there and providing, helping to meet the needs of people. And y'all are just tremendous. I want to say y'all are great. We've got the best of the best. And I'll just end it with that.
There's a lot of years of experience sitting in those
Yes,
chairs
sir.
right there.
I've had several opportunities to watch your folks work, had opportunity to work alongside of them when I was with the sheriff's office. And I don't know where I have ever seen as much professionalism and dedication to this community as I have through them. And we appreciate it so much. Thanks to all of you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate everything you all do. I got to come by one of the storms and just see you all working, and it was just amazing to see. Again, it is something Will does come and brag on you all of the time, but just to watch every station doing their thing and knowing what to do, and even prepping to get ahead of another storm that was possibly coming. And I just can't thank you all enough. And, you know, personally, I just want to say, a client of mine, we had to call 911 for her a couple weeks ago, and the EMS in McDowell County saved her life. And it's a true miracle, and it's been a testimony to the professionalism and the knowledge and everything that you just came right in the home and just started working on her and literally saved her life, got her all the way to Asheville, continuing to do CPR until they got her into surgery. And she came home on Monday after a 4.5 week recovery. And I told Will that day I would be forever indebted to McDowell County DSS and the training and all that takes place there and the things that you all do. I do agree that we do have the best of the best, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you know, I'll say real quick, I had somebody in the community the other day say, we should have never built the new EMS center y'all are in right now. And I said, sir, I said, do you understand that during the hurricane and these other disasters we've been through, I said, they could not have functioned in that old building they were in. The size and the magnitude of the event needed a big response, and I said they couldn't do it. And so, you know, we defend y'all and the public, and always will. I mean, our board 100% stands behind your one team, one mission, and we're part of it. And I'll go toe-to-toe with anybody in the public about that.
We're
Any day.
happy to give you a volunteer application for that person.
We'll say this from perspective of family. I do know that got family that'll call 911 and somebody will come out there and help her up and make sure she's okay. Two, a few years ago had an incident at a workplace here, and some of the faces were there, and from helping people out to coping with death. It's you guys are truly special people. I think you guys will see it before the doctors and nurses, and it does take a special person, and it is greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much.
It's amazing to have this much talent in this little room at one time, but I know for a fact that a lot of you guys have hauled me on little trips before, and I certainly have never forgot that, and the professionalism that they have shown to me as well as to all the other. It's amazing. And I've said it many times, and I'll say it one more time tonight. we have the best in the nation right here in McDowell County, and we appreciate you guys.
Thank
I want
you.
to know that.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Will. Let's give them a hand. Okay, next on the agenda tonight would be item B, the McDowell Transit Operation Update, and we're going to ask Miss Sarah Brewer to come forward first of all and let her have the floor. We welcome you, Sarah.
Thank you all for having us tonight and squeezing us into the evening meeting. I'll be coming next week to talk to you guys a little bit more about some updates that I have with my other departments. But tonight specifically, we wanted to give Jason Hollifield the floor to talk about transit, give you guys a yearly update, and talk about some things that he has in mind for the future. So I'll turn it over to Jason Hollifield. And Will kind of stole my thunder a little bit about Mr. Hollifield. During the ice storm, I was so impressed, and we are so lucky to have somebody who is so compassionate about making sure that our community gets to where they need to go. And he had, every day I talked to him throughout the storm, he had it covered. He made sure that those dialysis patients had a ride and that there was just no question. And so I can't brag on him enough for just taking charge of that time and just being such a good transit director. So I wanted to brag on him a little bit. He's really great, but I'll turn it over to Mr. Hollifield.
I did get personally a lot of good feedback on him during the course of the storms, and we appreciate what you did for the community, Jason.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it.
It was recognized by the public.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good evening. It's time for our annual transit update. I won't take the time to read each one of these, but there are a few I want to mention, a couple of things that we want to bring to your attention and just kind of let you know where things are headed from in the transportation department. We had a very good year. Total miles driven, 275,000 miles. And with our express and our regular passenger trips, that's over 30,000 trips. No major incidents, no major accidents. And you know, probably every time I come before the board, I'll say it, but I'm thankful for those drivers. You know, they're over there at 5:30 every morning, rain, snow, sleet, doing what needs to be done. Sometimes a driver will have 40 or 50 people on their van during the course of a day. That's a lot of interaction with the public. And you know, they do a fine, outstanding job. These numbers don't really express how proud I am of them for what they're willing to do, sometimes dealing with some tough situations. But we did have a great year. Wanted to stop and talk a little about the no-shows and the cancellations. That's an area where it's that's kind of a thorn in the side of most transit agencies. That's a hard thing to deal with. But our no-shows, sometimes a single no-show will tie up a van for an hour. You know, we're wasting fuel, wasting gas because people don't let us know they're not going to be riding. We changed the policy a while back to tighten up on the procedures for that, and that helped a lot. That brought those numbers down a lot. One thing we wanted to talk about tonight was looking at our cancellations, because we're running into a lot of the same thing there. We may leave in the afternoon with a completely full schedule for the next day and come in and have quite a number of cancellations, which leaves us scrambling trying to fill those seats. Sometimes we can't, sometimes we're not able to do that. So I gave to Mr. Wooten a policy change that I would like to look at as far as changing our structure when it comes to cancellations to try to help bring those numbers down. That's something that we did along the same lines with the no-shows, which cut the no-shows about in half. So that's the thought process there behind that, changing that policy to reflect, I think, what would be a good change for us. Do we have any questions about that before I move on to policy change?
I just want to say one thing. I don't know that he actually gave you the number, and it's in front of you there, but for the public, that's 6,105 cancellations.
Correct.
That is, I mean, that puts your drivers, your staff, your office staff, having to work to try to work around those things. So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the policy change to cover those cancellations.
Second.
Any discussion? I think we're all
Is
in
there,
agreement.
I do, Mr. Chairman. So statewide, since it's a statewide problem with transit systems, has there been any discussion or are they looking at the possibility of maybe some kind of a penalty for somebody who makes a reservation and then doesn't even think enough of you to call you to say, I need to cancel that? Is there any kind of thing statewide?
Some agencies do that. For example, Yancey County, they have a fee structure set up where they do charge the passenger a fee, but in talking to their director, I mean, it's impossible to collect.
Yeah.
So, you know, he didn't recommend going that route. But I think, I really think that's a good way to go because it really helped us with the no-shows. We're having a lot of trouble with that a year or so ago, and that brought that down. So the cancellations have just gone through the roof. I was shocked when I ran my numbers to see how high they actually are. But Mr. Green's right, it does sometimes put us in a real bind because sometimes we have to send a driver home if we can't get anybody to fill, you know, the rides that we had for the day.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you. Did want to stop on the denied rides, 2,192 denied rides last year. Just to give you some perspective, in 2023 we had less than 300. So you can see the agency is about at, well, it's not about, it is at capacity. So we wanted to talk about some thoughts and some plans that I had there. Now, of those rides, 1,000 of those denials were people wanting to book an express ride. So there's a real demand for the express service. But before I get into that, I would like to talk about expansion vans. This is something that I feel that we should start the ball rolling, the process of expanding our fleet. If we begin now, it would take us about 2 years to actually see the vans on the lot. Formal approval from the board would come later, but I feel like we need to start that process now. You probably remember when we have an expansion van, it's a 10% county match. Excuse me, I'm sorry. When we have a replacement van, it's a 10% county match. An expansion van is 20%, so it's a little bit more. But once we get that van, it falls into the future 10% category of expansion vans. I'm looking at 2 vans right now. The wheelchair vans are 110, so 20% of that would be 44,000. And again, that's something that would have to go through the formal approval process, but I would like to go ahead and start that process because it's going to take 2 years to get those vans here. There are some possibilities of some grants and some things that we could do to help with that, but the state, the way they look at that, if we do not use state funds, those vans do not go into the expansion pool. So in other words, if you buy a van with grant funds or even county funds, when it's wore out, it's worn out. You can't replace it. My opinion is I would rather stay in that replacement pool because once you have that going, you know, we're replacing vans fairly regularly. So that would keep us, I think, in better standing, a better use of funds to be able to replace those vans when the time comes.
I agree.
And the number, Jason, it's 11 right now for your fleet.
Yes, we have 11, so this would, if we go this route, would bump us to 13. And I think that, looking back at some old notes, the state, they recommended about 15. So we're kind of on track with what the state said we would be looking at this point.
And then upon approval, there's still a long wait on these units, isn't there?
Yes, sir. I would bring formal approval to you guys in the fall, and then it would be January of '28 before we actually see the vans. And that's just the way the state system is set up. We're getting 2 new vans next January, but those will just be replacing existing vans. This would be expanding the fleet, which, in my opinion, we're going to have to do. We're at capacity.
And this is a 20% match, correct?
Yes.
The route you want to go.
Yes.
Mr. Wooten, do we need to go ahead, he's made a request, what's your recommendation to go ahead and proceed with information to be gathered to start the process?
I think if you're so inclined to go ahead and do that,
Okay.
again, the formal approval will come this fall at that time.
I'll make a motion that we begin the process of reviewing and getting information for formal approval this fall.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's a good problem to have. It's you know, it's a good problem to have.
It is.
I want to talk quickly with you about our Express. This has been beyond anything that I anticipated that it would be. We had 3,200 rides from May through the end of December. And because the demand was so great here in Marion, we decided to add, with our existing resources, a third van starting December the 1st. And that brought the ridership up another 150 passengers per month just having one van. People love the service. It's very efficient. It's very handy.
It's
People-
cheap.
Yes.
$2.50 one way.
Yes.
You can't beat that nowhere.
Yeah. And people like being able to, if they wake up, being able to go to Walmart. You know, they don't have to book it with us, and we may be full. So, but the other side of the coin is Express is full too. Now, we have a lot of requests to bring it to Old Fort, and that's what I'd like to talk to you about tonight. And I think you have the map, correct?
Yes, sir, it's in there.
So what we did, what we're proposing, we left the north, east, and south borders the same, but that western border, we brought that on out to cover Old Fort. It went to Mackey's Creek anyway, so it was really not that far to bring it into Old Fort. We would like to do that with our current staff and current resources. That's the feedback that I get consistently. That's what I think the public wants. That's what I think we need to do as an agency. Now, that would help us offset the cost of the expansion vans. We're not doing that to bring in more revenue. We're doing that to meet a need. But, you know, the other way of looking at that is that would help us offset the cost of those vans. 500 rides a month come out to be about $15,000 a year. So, you know, 1,000 rides a month would be about $30,000 a year of revenue that we would be bringing in. We don't have to have any special equipment or anything. We can do this with what we've got. Now, I do want to express that's not going to take care of the denied ride problem. It will bring our express rides down, the miles down. But the only thing that's going to take care of that is more vans and more people. We can get it down somewhat because we have a lot of people that are on the app trying to book that ride, and they can't book it because they're out of the zone, so that counts as a denied ride. So in looking at the big picture, that's what I feel we need to do is work on expanding it by spring, at least into Old Fort.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the approval to expand the express service.
Second.
Motion second, discussion.
I'll just say, if you can get 80% of the funding and only expend 20%, and the 20% to be taken care of by the need being met with increased ridership and another expansion of your route, that makes great business sense.
That's the way I'm looking at it, because we're meeting a need, number one, but it's also going to help us be better set up down the road, because, you know, transit's only going to expand. It's only going to get bigger.
I know this will be very exciting to the people in Old Fort. They'll be really pleased with that. So, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that one's taken care of.
Okay, and as I said, I won't read over all these statistics, but I would like to ask if you have any questions or comments about any of these while I'm here with you.
Mr. Chairman, I just like to comment that, and it's already been said of Jason, that he's done an outstanding job, and I know every board member has said that at one time or another. But I just want to reiterate to you, Jason, that we appreciate what you do and how you're leading that department, and we want you to stay with us a long time. William Kehler mentioned employees over here have been here some of a while, and they're very good employees, and we appreciate people who work hard and help our people out in the community. So whatever you do, stay with us a while, okay? We like having you around.
I agree with Mr. Walker. The job that you've done with transit and your staff over there, you deserve the same recognition as William Kehler does with the EMS and the OC. You've done a fantastic job over there, even being recognized by the state, and we appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your
Okay,
time.
thank you, Jason. Okay. Moving on down to item C, under appointments, we have the property tax collection item. We have Miss Linda Onufrey here with us tonight from the tax department. Floor is yours, ma'am.
How's everyone?
Good.
So, I am here tonight to present to talk to you about three things. The tax lien advertisement. On February 2nd, I provided to you guys the report of the total unpaid taxes for current year 2025. This report included the county and district taxes. This was for real property only, which the balance of January 30th of 2026 was $2,565,041.10. I'm also presenting to you from that total a list of unpaid property taxes, real property taxes. I sent out the tax lien advertisement delinquent notices on February 2nd, sorry. And the total of those notices was 5,777 notices. 4,615 was real property and 1,162 was personal and business. On the tax lien advertisement, what gets advertised is for real property only. And so, which that becomes a tax lien once it gets advertised. The cost to do the advertisement, a budget every year, $4,700. The quote last year was, quote this year was $4,649.40. This is the same as last year. This approximately comes out about $260 per name, which is collected when the taxes are paid. It's not paid by the county, it's collected through the parcel. I would like to advertise, recommend to advertise the date of March 19th, 2026 in the McDowell News. They have cut back to only two days a week for papers. So Thursday is a better day because it's coupon day. So, no, that's just, we try to do it always, usually it was always the third Wednesday, but we had to move to Thursday since they only do it twice a week now. So the published date would be, like I said, we'd like to recommend the March 19th. The last day to pay would be March the 1st. This is printer's deadline, so taxpayers, they have up until the March 1st. March 1st. The notice reflects to the end of February with that amount showing due. They were also given the 30 days by statute, 30 days notice before being advertised in the newspaper.
Linda, the state, let me ask a question. With the newspaper only having 2 days per week now with the paper, and can you, I know they do digital, what's the state's stance or what's the statute or what is the law stating, can you advertise digitally, I guess, which, just a question.
I can't even remember. I researched that for you last year, but I can't remember what. I think it has to be approved and, become a statute. It is, not only in the paper, but it is on the McDowell County, my website on McDowell County. It is on that.
Would that suffice the state and meet the standard?
To me, that's as close to electronic as I could get, yeah.
I think it has to still be published on paper.
It does, yeah.
And things can change if someone wants to correct me that's watching this, but the understanding is that it has to be in print form. And if it ever got to a point where it's not printed anymore, unless the law changes, we would have to print it in another paper. But there's a lot of discussion that can happen in General Assembly because there are communities that have lost their papers. We're very fortunate to have a newspaper still here, but where they've lost those, they've lost that opportunity to advertise things like this. And again, are required to advertise this, but also public hearing notices and things in our paper. So it's an item of concern that's out there, but we'll research it more in the meantime.
If you will, remind me, those cases, just like we have some EMS things that we can't collect, what are the cases on the taxes where you might not be able to collect? Is it an estate that's not settled or something like that, or?
We should be able to collect, I mean, 10-year statute of limitations is what I couldn't collect. I can't forcibly collect like a wage garnishment or anything like on anything that's past 10 years.
Okay.
If it is still currently in our system, we can foreclose upon the property. This right here, this tax lien advertisement, that becomes a lien on anything, personal property, so we could collect it through foreclosure
Okay,
That's the
through
beginning
the
of the
tax lien.
procedure, basically.
exactly, gotcha.
However, there is some that if we couldn't, businesses close, we have no way of collecting it.
Right.
But we try not to get to that point. We try to collect everything we can, so we try to stay up on top of those.
I did
or-
notice a business or two.
Like of personal properties, things like that, if we can't forcibly collect through a garnishment, and say like they don't have no real property, so that is not a tax lien on that personal. But if they have real property, it does attach to that, and I can collect at that time.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you.
We need to,
Make a motion, we approve the advertising of the listing. As presented.
okay, discussion on that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, ma'am.
Have a good evening.
Now we move along to old business, and item A under old business is the water system project update and approval. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. Just a couple of quick hits on our water system growth and development that we're seeing. Focus in Nebo first. With our East End project, again, that's over by Marion Lake Club area, that is underway, and I've talked about how complex that project is. Some of the stretches, it's just, there's one secondary state road there, for example, very easy. That was done in about 2 weeks. But a lot of the work is involved where there's very narrow roads and very limited right-of-way, and so that is taking more time. And then when you have snow and ice, it doesn't help things. But the project is still proceeding. We have not certified any of those new lines yet, but hopefully some of those that have been completed can be certified in the next couple of weeks. Nebo Phase 2A and B are complete, except for a very small section on, I guess it's Memorial Park Road there, right by the attic. There's a master meter that will be relocated, or installed at that location. And then a couple more projects, one there at Exit 90 that is still working on an environmental review. It's taken quite a while. Phase 3, which is Randolph Road, that should start construction. I received contracts last week on that. So hopefully within the next month or so that project will start. That is our last project under the state/federal appropriation we received back in '21. And so when that project is done, we will be completed with all our projects from that original grant. And the last bullet item there under Nebo, we've talked about a master meter being relocated on Highway 70. This is a meter that is where the city system essentially ends and our system begins. We went ahead and had the master meter on 70 moved last week. We're still in the process of working out some amendments to bring to you to our current water purchase agreement with the city. Some of that had to do because the language, talked very specifically about where the master meter was located. And so there's a draft that went their way, essentially just moved that master meter. I understand for city manager, there might be some other proposals that come forth towards our direction. So we'll keep you posted on what that might look like, of course. But so we want to make sure we're good partners in water system development as it relates to NEVO, but also as we transition over to the new system we're building southwest of Marion on Sugar Hill Road. Really no change on, we're still under plan review with our staff. I did mention in your memo that I spoke with our engineer about 2 weeks ago. In my 20 plus years of doing water projects, I cannot remember when the State Historic Preservation Office has thrown up a red flag with a water project. Typically, they understand that a water line goes beside the road, it's in a ditch line. Something might have happened in that ditch line. It probably wasn't a ditch 200 years ago, it might have been a trail or nothing at all, but SHPO, as it's called, has said, hey, we want to take a little bit of time to do a survey. And so it's federal, there's federal money in this project, so we have to go by federal rules, which will slow us down a little bit, maybe an additional 2 months. And so a consultant that does this for a living will come out and they will do some test sites that are identified by the State Historic Preservation Office. And they'll look for any sort of proof of, pre-contact civilizations or anything else that might be noteworthy. And they'll do a report, and as long as there's not something very monumental that happened in that community, it should be very routine, and we should just kind of roll on. So that's what we're hoping for.
So we'll wait till bid process, we'll wait until after that's complete before the bid process?
Yes, sir, we have to wait. And so that is the last part for our environmental review project to be complete. Otherwise, everything has been going well from, and just very quickly, we contact SHPO, we contact, it's called TIPO, which is the tribes that had any sort of historical connection here. And we rarely, if ever, have any feedback from the tribes. And everyone else has been checking the box, but this one stopped us a little bit, so it's okay. I do mention in your memo where you authorize application for funding for a line on Marlow Road and Zion Hill Road. We did notice today, I put in your memo that the meeting is February 18th, which is still true, but I indicated that sometimes they'll put the agenda very much in advance online, and then they will also put some funding recommendations online as well. And so I was alerted by Mr. Boyd, who has worked with us from the Association of County Commissioners. He was tracking the website better than I was, I guess, but he noticed this morning that this project is recommended for funding. So things could change, the authority could get in there and say, you know what, we don't want to, but it is recommended. So it's recommended for the full application amount. So assuming that happens, there would be, probably 2 months of documentation going back and forth. But the idea, as I've talked about for months, is that entire section is designed, it's in the environmental review that we're doing. So ideally, we get this money in hand with the money we've already been granted by the state and others. That we
Go
can
to bid on the whole line at one time.
Yes, sir. So that, fingers crossed, seems to be how it's working out. There might be some procedural issues in there, but by the time we're all ready to go, we should be able to bid the entirety all at once. So
You just stay on them, Mr. Wooten.
we will. So that was very good news. And Mr. Boyd, I told him, he did the heavy lifting on the grant writing and did a fantastic job. So
We need to recognize him for writing that grant.
that's
that
right.
was major.
So that
because
was a
you're
big
providing
deal.
water to that school, coming up, hitting the church, hitting the volunteer fire department, and and even saving money by having it loop back to where you're not having a water line run out, and at the end of the line, you're dumping it, you're paying the city to dump water at the end of a line.
That's right.
So you're looping. It's home run.
And I will admit, you brought up the city again, just to mention, we do not yet have a water purchase agreement for this area. So whether we amend the agreement that's serving the Nebo area or have it all together different one here, we have had a couple of discussions with city manager and others about the need to have one here. And so it's in some level of process, but we will need that before we start buying water from them.
Will that, could that inhibit you think they'll have the information before we get the historic information in the bidding process?
I mentioned last month, I don't think I referenced it here, where they were hoping to do some water treatment studies, and so that process has not started yet. And so they understand very clearly that we have, projects in the offing here. And so they understand that we have a lot of writing on to be able to buy water from them. And so, again, they're great partners to work with, and they have their needs and concerns, and we share them because we purchase water from them, but we need that study to be complete so we know we have water to buy from them.
Question, Mr. Wood, I know going out to the Burke line 70 east, so how far does our water line go out? Does it go all the way to the Burke line?
We are, I think, several hundred feet from Burke County. There's a hydrant maybe 100 feet east of Rutherford Drive, so it's very close to the county line.
And so, and Burke, they're trying to get that water line. Do they have a water line in place all the way now up to McDowell County's line yet?
There is a smaller and older line on the Burke side. If you know where, I think it's Bridgewater Road, that is provided currently by a private water corporation called Brentwood Water. The city of Morganton is in the process of designing, it's not under construction, but designing a water line that would serve the property owned by Great Meadows on the Burke side. And so there's Morganton's intent is to get water to that site that we've talked about before.
And they're using money with the that was appropriated by the General Assembly to get to that mega site. So I'm just saying that we need to be looking at all options, and if there's an issue with the current water supply, if there's a line running all the way down, it might could supply this direction.
And you have to understand what your options are, and I'll kind of hit real quick and then come back to that in a second. But we are doing an asset inventory and assessment project for our water system, and the first part, which is pretty much complete, is a mapping project. That was pretty easy because we have essentially the plans for probably 85% of the system. And so that is pretty much done. They will do a rate study as part of this project, but a lot of it is just understanding what we have in the ground. And thankfully, most of it is 20 years old or less. And so we know where things are typically. And so this will help get our system on good solid footing. And the partnership grant we've talked about before, this is funded from DEQ. Primarily or only to clusters of communities that were impacted by Helene. And so there was, I believe, one in Rutherford and Henderson, and then one maybe in Haywood County, might be Madison. But anyway, these were communities that the state identified that naturally work together well. And they said, hey, McDowell, Marion, and Old Fort get along, and they partner already. How can we help them talk about ways they can further help each other? And the original discussion has been focused mostly on disaster response. We met probably 9 months ago from some preliminary discussions, and it was maybe sharing radios and pipes and different things. But in the meantime, about a month ago, we had a kickoff meeting with some of the utility committee members. So Mr. Walker, Mr. Brown were present, who sit on our utility committee. And we spoke with the city and town about elected officials and staff, facilitated by the Environmental Finance Center, the School of Government, about some preliminary discussions of how to work better together. And it's, I don't have the graphic in your packet, but they talk about there's essentially a spectrum of how you can do that. It might be, sharing a wrench, being a little bit facetious, all the way to consolidation and merger of systems. And there's a whole spectrum in between. And so the idea of this process isn't to go in making up minds right now to say, we want to merge the three systems, or we want to share a wrench. It might be something in between. We already purchased from the city of Marion, but there's not a connection literally between Marion and Old Fort. That's been studied over the years. But so to your point earlier, Mr. Walker, there's some possibilities coming out of that process of looking at options, whether they come from sources in this county or outside, ideally from inside this county, of course. But if there's a need to look outside, then that might be something I have to do too. But
And Marion has been, without the city, we wouldn't have a water system. I mean, they supplied it and they've helped us with our water system. So definitely hats off to the city for their helping us develop our water system.
absolutely. So that's all I had.
Okay.
Water.
No action on that, so let's move along then to the next item, which would be the county policy proposal, second reading. There is action. That is an action item. Mr. Wooten.
Yes, sir. The two we presented last month, the penny shortage policy. This is drafted kind of at the recommendation, again, of the School of Government, in anticipation of the 1 cent coin or the penny being short because of it not being minted any longer. And we talked about that last month, where if people are in person paying with cash, that we would have a situation where, because we are not by law allowed to reduce a tax bill without your authority, that we would need to round up in a situation. So the recommendation there would be in transactions, if someone does not have exact change, to round up to the nearest nickel. And then the other item is related to the employee service recognition policy. The feedback I heard, and I might have misread, but I think it was relatively clear on that one, where our practice had been, for service pins and that sort of thing, if someone is leaving employment via retirement, that they'd be able to use accumulated sick leave to get to like a milestone year. So if they, for example, were retiring with 28 actual years worked, but they had enough sick leave accumulated to get to 30, the retirement system will allow you to retire at full retirement, but our recognition wouldn't give you credit for that since you weren't literally physically here for those year and a half, 2 years later. So I did add that in the underline in number 7 based on your feedback.
Which pleasure the board.
I have a question on the penny shortage policy.
Yes, sir.
This would be any transaction, like somebody comes in to pay their water bill or tax bill or whatever, correct?
Yes, sir. It is designed to be uniform across and not just have a separate one for the tax department and everywhere else, just for the simplicity sake.
Anywhere where McDowell County's receiving funds.
And I know I mentioned this to you, but I just want to say that I understand the need for the rounding up if we're not dealing with pennies anymore. But my problem is I want to know, and we're using the example, if the bill was 1978 and they would need to pay 1980, that 2 cents still belongs to the customer, in my mind. Where's it gonna go?
That's not what the policy's intent is. The policy intent is
I
if
understand
they
that.
bring the, if they do it in cash, it's gonna, you need to speak to that.
Right.
Well, if it was,
Cause they can't do it shortage.
yeah, if it was, you used the number, what, 78?
If their bill is 1978 and they're having to pay 1980, what happens to that 2 cents?
If it was 1977, it would go back, wouldn't it, the other way? Or
If
1970, it always goes
it's
up.
1976, it's always gonna go up to the nickel.
Always
It'll
going
be up to the nickel.
That
Well,
makes the
but,
nickel.
you know, you said to the closest.
Right.
Versus nickel.
But you can always pay with a card or check and pay exact change. I mean, just pay.
Correct.
Right.
Do a
What's
lot of
the,
people use cash to pay?
Say what?
Not
Do a lot of people
typically.
use cash to pay?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
do you see this being a huge problem? Or do most people pay with a
To
card?
Mr. Green's point, it would, or clarification perhaps, you more than likely have more cash payments. Less than half, I think, at the shooting range, some of our other facilities where it's cash. In the tax office, typically it's check, sometimes credit card, but sometimes it's cash. You know, especially for a smaller transaction, if it's a small bill, small piece of property or whatever, or a motor vehicle or something.
what's the standard operating practice? Because it begs to ask the question, what's the state, what is local municipalities doing in regard to the question as asked?
I think it's still a new issue based on the discontinuance of the minting. And so it has started to pop up as far as being a concern. Our bank has told us
Is this something we're forced to do right now, or is it something we can worry about
we're going to
later?
face it at some point.
We're gonna-
The tag offices, which does not do a lot of cash, and that goes by DMV rules, they've already stopped, or already started implementing essentially what we're talking about. So we can't object to what they do, even we're just a contractor. But we have been told by our bank that, you know, they're having some shortages already. I don't know if there's hoarding going on with them already because of the lack of minting, but there's still, you know, billions of pennies out there, but they're not necessarily coming to us where we have them on hand.
Well, let me just say, to clarify my question, if I come in to pay my water bill and I pay that with cash, and my water bill was $19.78, and because of the rounding up, I'm required to pay $19.80. As a taxpayer, I don't want that 2 cents going into the general fund of the county. I want that credited to my water bill. That's why I'm asking what happens to that
Right,
2
as
cents.
it's presented right now, that 2 cents would essentially disappear into the ether,
Disappear where?
in the ether.
It's not gonna be, it's gonna be more labor to have that 2 cents or whatever it is up to 4 cents to make an amendment on your water bill. And that's not the intent. It's what other places are doing currently
I
now.
understand all that. I just want to know where my 2 cents is going.
I do think it's gonna go into the general fund when at completion, it will get to the general fund.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah, is that wrong?
You're exactly right.
So, I mean, but if we choose not to do this, what do we do when someone comes
we're gonna have to do it.
and we do not have the appropriate change? You know, we don't want, employees.
It's been forced upon the country, I'd say, by the federal government, and
It costs 4 cents to knock one
and
out.
it's hard to blame the federal government when they're losing money just to make a penny. How much does it cost to make a penny?
4 cents, I think.
4 cents to make 1 penny.
And it costs 13 to make a nickel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
That's not, well,
Let's move on.
Well,
But
that's an action item, right? So we need to.
it's second reading.
they are ready for approval for both of them.
Well, we discussed the first one, so I'll make a motion that, and I'll state that it's not that we're trying to make any additional money here, and I agree, and I understand what you're saying, is just the federal government has placed this upon county governments, and you say legally we can't lose money on a tax bill, it had to come before the board. So I make a motion we approve the, as presented by the county manager and staff.
Are you doing both policies?
No, one, because I think you need to look at the second one independently. I got no problem with the second one, but in case there's comment or questions.
I second.
We got a motion and a second on the first one. Any discussion on it? All in favor of it, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay, on the second one.
Mr. Wooten, on the second one, I agree with the policy recommendation. Just one question I had, I know that you would always do the pins in December, and you may have people return at certain times. Are y'all gonna do that, say, twice a year, or in June or December? If somebody retires in January, you gonna make them wait till December, or how you gonna do that?
I think right now, I think I'll say for the convenience of the staff, because right now it's the finance director that keeps track of this, and you know it is not entirely burdensome, but it is something that she personally keeps track of, and I probably once a year makes it more simplistic as opposed to doing it multiple times. I'd probably recommend we just kind of keep on the same pattern of doing it, you know, where they're presented in December.
Okay. And you asked a question there, are you gonna go back to everybody who's retired? Are you asking for direction on that?
I am. The question arose out of, I think, a retired employee under that scenario of not having, you know, earned a PIN under that 27 or 28 year. And so the question, you know, are we looking back any or just looking forward?
My comment would be that we approve the policy as presented. I'll make that in form of motion. And then any employee who wishes to contact staff has that right to call and retroactively handle it for them.
It'd be hard to go back retroactive,
Yeah,
50 years.
Well, I agree too, because I mean, we're making the proposal today.
Yeah.
And from today forward, it is what he's presented.
Well, the reason I said that is I'll make a motion and then we'll just see what happens with it. I'll make a motion we approve the policy as presented, and there was an employee that reached out to staff who had been here 29 years and used 30 days worth of sick time and retired out, and she couldn't get her PIN because of that. I would say that lady ought to be able to get her PIN. I mean, and that's the way I feel about it.
Well, now, let me ask this question. Are we talking about using that for, if you're gonna use it for service and saying that you've used that sick time for service, I can go back to my 19 and a half years where I had 19 months of sick leave built up and couldn't use it. So what are you gonna do? I mean, I'm not gonna come ask you to. I mean, that's past and gone for me, but I mean, you're gonna have to be clear about this stuff.
I think it is a service, and the service would be that the intent is that people are gonna be working, and if they're gonna retire early, they retire 29 years and 9 months, you know, and not get the 30-year PIN because they're not working, they're not serving. And then they, unless they come back to work, if they come back to work after the 30-year time frame and work some time, then I would agree that that would be part of the intent of sick leave.
But I would,
The intent of sick leave is not to retire, it's because when someone is sick.
but I would argue that employee has been such a good employee that they didn't use the sick time that they earned. They worked for you.
Then we need to change our that we need to change our name from sick time to personal time, because that's, we're going into semantics, we're gonna all disagree. It's sick leave is when someone is sick, they have a health problem, they can't make it to work. If they say, I'm gonna go ahead and retire, they retire. If they get 3 days, 3 months, 3 years worth of sick time, if they don't come back to work, they've retired early. That's one opinion. And everybody's got the right.
What's the state say on
Actually,
that? Oh, go ahead.
You said that retirement will take the sick leave
Yes, ma'am.
and use retirement.
What is before you tonight is, it's consistent with the retirement system as far as giving what they call creditable time. Because it's your days and months and weeks that you have sat at your desk or driven a garbage truck or whatever, plus that sick leave you've accumulated.
And that's the
over
state
years.
retirement plan that
Accrual.
But the question you
Allows
have
that.
is, do we look back or move forward?
Right. If you approve how it's presented tonight, do you just look forward or do you look back to, like the person that Mr. Walker referenced?
Or you.
Your situation, or anyone, I know you don't want to, but anybody that might say, you know what, that fits me. The concern that I have looking backwards is it's an unknown quantity. You know, it might, and I don't like that necessarily, but we could deal with it one at a time. It might be 5 people, it might be 100, it might be 500. I don't know.
May not be anybody.
Then I say we
and
need to look
this is,
forward.
I'll state this, and I don't know this person that contacted me, other than she's a county employee, former employee, who asked about it when she retired, if she could use it, and was basically given the green light to go ahead and use it. And so that's the reason why I just say with this person.
If she was given the green light through HR department, then I think that there's some stability, and that's gonna have to be handled, he's gonna have to
To
handle
use
that.
you were saying to use the sick time to retire, like, but on the service, it was, I think, a separate situation, but recognition.
Did you
And
make
this is
that
just to
motion?
get a pin, right?
Or cash equivalent?
Okay.
Did you make the motion to?
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we approve the policy as presented with the clause that staff, upon anybody who is a former employee who would fit the bill, to use the time that was sick time that had accrued to equal the total time served.
I'm just, I'm not ready to vote on this tonight myself. I've got mixed motions on it, mixed feelings on it, so I don't know.
Well, a motion without a second's dead anyway.
Yeah.
I would like to, and since that one's dead, I'd like to make a motion that we table this to the next meeting.
Second.
For
I
discussion,
think
for discussion, I am for presenting it as is.
Yes.
And when we make that decision, it's there forward.
Yes,
But, so, we tabling it.
I had a motion, you got a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay. All right. That's just a tough one for us to deal with now. Moving on to new business. Moving on to new business, we'll go ahead and do item A, which is the fiscal year 2026 budget update and approval of Mr. Wooten.
And there are no approvals, this is the budget update for the current year. We talked a little bit last month about planning for the next year. And I don't have this information in there, but I will mention it unless you have questions about the current year information. You know, I communicate with you here and there about things that are of concern as it relates to future issues. And I mentioned last summer, we'll talk more about this next Monday, an item of interest and concern that we're watching is related to congressional action, again, kind of like the penny, I guess, where costs related to SNAP administration, food stamps, as well as Medicaid, those changes happened last summer in Congress. And as I said at that point, there could be impacts to the counties, state as well. And so right now we don't know with certainty what those impacts will be. Ultimately, it's dependent on, what our General Assembly may or may not do. And so they do not come back into session until April for the short session. But the counties, as you have done last summer, are advocating for state assistance. If the state does not help us with the costs that are being shifted downward from the federal government, we will be incurring more funding responsibility for SNAP administration, which again is also known as food stamps, as well as more determination costs, more than likely, for Medicaid. What I told you last summer was kind of reiterated last week on a call with the state. You could be looking at a number of $500,000 to $600,000 of additional cost, and that's spread out depending on all the county sizes. I think the SNAP number was around 65 million, and that's just on the administration. So again, we do the administration on that. We do determinations of eligibility for SNAP and for Medicaid. The county has the state has a very small role financially. Currently, they are helping a little bit on the Medicaid expansion population that was added about 2 years ago. And so there's a lot of advocacy on those items through the State Department of Health and Human Services, through the county association, just essentially asking the General Assembly to hold us harmless. What's happened in Congress has happened, and so it's more of a state decision now if they're able to help us. Mm-hmm. And if they're not, then that's an impact we'll have. And
last summer, did we do a resolution?
You did. We
requesting the
sent
state to hold
letters
us
to
harmless?
all our legislative delegation. I think we're probably the first, and I had some outreach from our congressional representation at the time. They weren't aware of any other county in the congressional district that were. So, well, I'd rather be in front of it and making noise about it. But I've said it since last summer. I'm saying it now, and talking to our department staff, department heads. If we're eating that cost, whether it's $400,000, $500,000, $600,000, whatever it might be, any amount, that impacts what we're able to do for the entire organization. So, the sheriff needs help. Mr. Kehler needs help. Whether it's equipment, whether it's staff. I was explaining to somebody earlier today, I think it was Ms. Montgomery, we start a budget process and planning every year in the hole. What do I mean? We talked a little bit about retirement and pension. Pension costs increase every year. That is outside of our control. We are told by the local government retirement system, you will pay this much per your current employees. That increases every year to keep that system solvent. We are told by our insurance brokers every year to budget more money, usually about 5%. The lights in the buildings, the natural gas to heat the buildings, the fuel to keep our vehicles going, all that increases. And so you know this, but just to talk about it every year, we start in a hole in our budget process just for things we can't control. It's things we're not doing anything new and different. It's not adding staff. It's not building buildings. It's not building parks or anything new. It's just doing the things we're doing right now. It just costs more, just like buying that loaf of bread at the grocery store for anyone else. And so to start there and then add additional cost for other things like this, and there's numerous things that we're faced every year, but this is a significant number, and just trying to get the message out internally for our folks as well as externally, whether it's the school system or others in the college. This is what we're facing, and so don't be surprised in the budget process if it's a lot more uncertainty this year as opposed to prior years until the General Assembly says one thing or the other. So again, we'll keep advocating. I've spoken with Mr. Leonard with the association about our concerns, and I think the other 99 have too.
Do our fraud investigators with the DSS, are they on top of this?
They are, as far as fraud investigations of folks that are in our community, and I can't get into particulars, but we have folks. It's typically more so people that they might get employment in between a certification period, and they don't report it. And when we find out about it, their income might put them out of qualification, for example. Whether it's that or for food assistance. That's more where the fraud comes into as opposed to someone presenting false documents. Sometimes it might be a size of household that is misrepresented. Sometimes it might be, there's 2 wage earners in a home. So we have some of those situations, and whenever we have those, there is a recoupment, and there has been prosecution sought for people, especially in egregious situations. But it's not that widespread, but when it does happen, we have an aggressive stance on it. To take advantage of something like that is designed for people in extreme need, not people just taking advantage of the system.
I'd love to hear a good solid report from both the local and the state people on that.
That's all I had under budget.
Okay.
You need approval for your admin items, is that where we are?
Yes, sir. Next is admin items, which is EMS write-offs and a couple of NEVO water leak waivers.
Okay.
We approve the admin items.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion to approve. Have a second. Second. Okay, discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Item C, the property tax releases, refunds, and discoveries.
These are typical.
Move to approve tax matters.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Then we added item D.
Item D, floodplain maps. Mr. Wood.
Yes, sir. If we can remember all the way back to September of 2023, it's hard to remember past Helene, especially around floodplain, but we received notification at that time that FEMA was doing some updates to our flood maps. And so we spoke with you at that time, provided some information. I can't recall we had it on the agenda, but we did have a public information meeting. We co-hosted with the City of Marion because the way FEMA looks at, and the state looks at floodplain mapping, each entity, governmental entity, is treated separately. Even though we do the floodplain management for the town, they get a separate mail and everything. And so we wanted to make sure we received a letter several weeks ago from the flood mapping program with the state in conjunction with FEMA. There are parcels that had adjustments to their flood mapping status. Some had no special flood hazard area before, now they're in a floodway. There's a few of those, but most of the situation is a minor tweak here and there. And so these new rules and maps have been advertised in McDowell News by FEMA about 2 weeks ago. And there's a 90-day period that concludes on April 21st. And FEMA puts a pretty high bar. Property owners cannot just contact FEMA and say, I don't like your maps. I think they're wrong. You can say that, but you have to provide good reason and data. It has to be an engineering report or some other scientific information to say, this is why I disagree with what you're saying. We're not able to do that work for the property owner, but we can act as an assist and more or less a conduit. And so we'll make sure these maps are put on our social media for property owners.
How many property owners, do you have a number of how many that were not in the floodplain prior that are now in the floodplain?
We have not been able to obtain that count. It would be really nice to know, and also an actual property owner or parcel list. We've not been able to get that as of yet, but the differences are shown on the maps. So you kind of have to know you're close to a water body of water to go looking for it. But if we can get that information, it would certainly be helpful. We'll try. But we'll post this on there. Just wanted to make sure the information was shared with you, of course, as well as the public.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let's move along now to item E, which is the Baxter layoff.
Yes, sir. Much like the last item, I just wanted to provide some information. There have been some news reports about Baxter Healthcare having a layoff, which they confirmed in those reports of being 90 employees. And just to let you know, we have reached out to the company offering support, of course, for anything they need to do with sharing with their employees. Our partners, whether it's with the Workforce Development Board, MEDA, Chamber of Commerce, as well as NC Works, have spoken with each other, but also with Baxter, to let them know that there are resources available. So we understand from Baxter, from reports, that they're providing essentially severance packages for those employees that are affected. I don't know the details of those and how long, that kind of thing, but they have communicated they are supporting their folks. What we are asking for is help in getting a little bit more information about that. And so there are no job fairs scheduled at this point, but NC Works and the Workforce Development Board, they want to do whatever's necessary to help those folks. So while 3% is not a very large number for that employer, 90 people is a pretty big deal. And that's 90 households that are affected, and hopefully we'll find employment. And it sounds like are being taken care of somewhat by the company right now, but the community that serves in that area wants to see how they can help. So once they know more, I spoke to them again today, the Workforce Board. Once they know more from the company, they'll be able to talk more specifically about what they can do as far as job fairs and things. So just want to make sure you know there's effort to try to help those people.
Our hearts are certainly sad for those that are affected by this.
That's all I have.
Okay. Moving along, Mr. Coates, do we have anyone on citizen comment?
No one.
Commissioner staff reports, anybody?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a motion we adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.